Hey, what's going on, and welcome to another episode of The Way I See It. My name is Chris. Today, basically going to be talking to you about blockchains and the way I see how blockchains are. If you're not familiar with the show, my episodes are basically dropping a little bit of nuggets of information that I think are important to someone that's looking to start a business or start a blog or work on the internet. And there's buzzwords that are going around that you don't necessarily know about, and I learned a little bit about it, and I'll just share it with you. So if you want to find out more information, I always basically tell people to try to go ahead and find out more information from other sources that I probably will leave inside the description below, or up there, or over here, wherever you're seeing this video. So first off, blockchains are pretty much like the databases, and the difference between a database and a blockchain are two things that I'll get to it in a few minutes. What I want to kind of talk to you about, though, is that you might have heard the term blockchains with the whole term of cryptocurrency, virtual currency, and you'll have we have the Bitcoin, or we have other token coins that we basically hear going on, like Ethereum and stuff like that. But what makes these things so better? What makes these things so much more convenient and safer? Well, blockchains are pretty much like databases. They basically store history, and they store data, and the transactions basically changes that state. That's just like a database, but a database can only do certain things. It can't basically handle like the double spending problem, which is pretty much where if I have $10 and I gave the $10 to you, I probably shouldn't be able to take that same $10 and give it to Frank, and that's the whole idea, that what databases basically can't do, that blockchains can do. And the idea of a blockchain is basically a concept of what it actually represents. So in computer science, you have these things called like objects, and each object can basically represent something. For instance, each block represents a transaction, and the transactions are chained together to each one. So every time a new block is added to each one, these blocks basically cannot basically make any sense unless the previous block before it. So not to go too I don't want to get too complex with it, but the reason why these things are so great is that it forces you to think more about how do you protect the accuracy of the different information that is basically used for each transaction. And that's considered what they call the eventual agreement protocol, or eventual consistency, meaning that if I basically use a blockchain to buy a sandwich from Burger King, and then somebody else buys a sandwich from Burger King, as the time goes on, more and more people use that blockchain. The agreement that we believe that the blockchain is being used for the Burger King, that we eventually know that that's a place to eat. We can basically say that's a place where we can actually go and have something to eat. We can all agree on that. And then we can also focus on, if you use a blockchain for, let's say, something that isn't about eating for food, let's say maybe a bookstore, you can basically say that if somebody tries to go ahead and buy a Burger King sandwich from a bookstore, it wouldn't necessarily be considered valid. So you would you can basically look at what people are basically agreeing on based on what they're already doing. The problem about these things is that it's so hard to get people to agree on everything, so we only focus on what they can agree on. There are other companies that are trying to come up with different versions of this particular blockchain, so you can definitely check out 3 Brown 1 Blue. That kind of does a really good job visually giving you an explanation of what a blockchain is, how a ledger is, like pretty much like a wallet that the information can be stored into, and what does it mean to have a central authority and a distributed authority. So if you want to hear about more of those things, just keep like this, or make some comments somewhere, and I'll be able to try to get more information to you, and or make another video. But I want to keep these things under 5 minutes, and take care.